Minister, I just want to begin by congratulating you for the enormous success that the school reopening has been for you, your department, and want to thank the principals, the parents, the Board of Management, the teachers, the SNAs, the school staff, ancillary staff throughout the country, and the students themselves that have made this a great success. Minister, I want to address you on the topic of the algorithm and the prejudice that has been caused to schools that have a high number of high achievers. The process of calculated grades was designed to ensure that the teacher's judgment was central to the process. In fact, great care was taken to protect the position of the teachers so that they felt able to give their professional estimation and that they were able to make that decision unencumbered by any outside influence, and that was right. The calculated grade system then had three elements to it, and the last element was removed following the scenes in the UK and the prejudice that was evident in the UK, particularly against schools in disadvantaged areas. And I'm delighted in the way that this has worked out, that there are schools in my own home constituency of Dublin South Central that benefited and showed great achievements. However, there are also schools that have a high number of high achievers in it, and consequently they have come out at the wrong end of this. The standardisation algorithm was applied, taking into account the teacher's estimated marks and the ranking of the student in the class. However, if you have a student who is ranked at level 10 in a class where you have a normal spectrum of achievement and indeed non-achievement, and you compare that with a class where there is a high level of high achievers, the person who is ranked at 10 in that class is going to be prejudiced when the standardisation algorithm was applied to them. Schools with disproportionately numbers of high achievers have been disproportionately downgraded. The application of the algorithm has meant that if you were a student who got 95 in a high-performing school, you are much more likely to be downgraded to a H2 than if you were a student in a school that got 90 and got 95 in a school that had a normal spectrum of achievement. So the students in high-performing schools were downgraded for no other reason in some instances than for the fact that they happened to find themselves in a class of extremely capable students. So this has brought about devastation when it came to CAO offers. It has, and when you combine that with the points inflation that naturally arose out of the situation, then we have doubled the hardship on them. These students are students that have worked extremely hard. You know, it is unfair that they are being deemed entitled or privileged. They are people who had ambitions, had a reasonable expectation of what was ahead of them when they got their Leaving Cert results and their CAO. But now they find that the blunt instrument of the standardisation has completely prejudiced their hard work. While many students have been lucky and have scraped through and got their first choice, many have been left out in the cold and find themselves in their 6th and 7th choice. So this year, the students that have suffered the most, that you've reached out to the most, to be fair and with due respect to you, but their suffering continues because these are the students that are now in the appeals process. So Minister, I'm appealing to you in some way to consider making the appeals process to be a little bit more than a clerical exercise. You know, to rectify the wrong that has been done to high achieving students. We still have time to do that, and it needs to take account the past history of the student and their teacher's opinion of their estimated grade. You know, the process needs to allow for the setting aside of that ranking, because it is the ranking that has been the key instrument in bringing about that prejudice, and so that we alleviate that hardship on students who just happen to be in a class with a number of very high achievers. You know, it's not a sufficient backstop for students to be permitted to sit the exams in November as an alternative. When the college year will be lost to them. It's not a satisfactory appeals process as a consequence because it is disproportionate hardship, and I know that would not be your intention. I appreciate absolutely that the decisions made this year were made in an unprecedented context and they have had an unintended consequence. But as it arrives, if it is within your gift to rectify this decision and to rectify this process and bring in some redress within this process, such as that said by me, in looking at the history of those particular individual students, then I'm appealing to you to exercise that discretion. Thank you, Minister.